Hello and welcome to the Pod of Never. This is Matthew Nanez, and if you think, Matt, you sound weird, it's because I have a cold. But that is okay, and I am here. It's a Saturday here in Utah, almost Thanksgiving, and I was like, you know what? Let's put out an episode because I had a call with my partner, Amanda Killian. She's my not creative design, but graphic design partner. See, I can't even think straight. She's my graphic design partner. We're currently in the middle of a project right now, doing a website for a rehearsal space here in Salt Lake, and it's going super well. And I've been sitting on this conversation where we were talking about kind of like the experiences of, the big tours that happened in music, at least in rock, whether it's My Chemical Romance. I know they're a common subject between us two, but also Oasis. And at this time, during when we recorded this, I had just finished playing with the band Get Scared at Aftershock Festival. So it kind of like gave me some ideas of like, okay, what do we talk about here? And I just felt really inspired by just how much the festival was run and how like being not so much in community, but like public spaces where a lot of people come together for one thing. I really think that's going to be something huge moving forward for humanity. As much as we're on our phones and the prevalence of AI, and so we just kind of chat about that. So again, like I said, me and Amanda, we are interested in doing branding projects or web projects. So I'm excited to share what we've got going on when that is finished. But if you are interested, go to chapterscreative.com. We also have our Unstuck Reset workshop where basically me and Amanda, with our combined powers, we take your marketing and get it unstuck, combining both her process of clarifying your marketing and my process of clarifying your brand's narrative. So if you're interested in that, go to chapterscreative.com/unstuckreset. So here we go. Here is a podcast with myself and Amanda, and I hope you enjoy. I was like, yeah, I like going for an underdog. She's like, they're good. I'm like, no, like they're cursed.
Yeah.
The Bills are cursed. They're an underdog.
They're good, but they have like I was trying to explain this the other day to someone. I was like, look, if you were the type of person to believe that the NFL is actually rigged, this is the year that the Bills are going to win the Super Bowl, because the narrative is completely there. Like, they're not so ubiquitous that everybody hates them, but they are. Oh my God. Hold on. Now I'm having a cat issue. Lucy, I swear to God, I'm going to turn you into
I would rather have bells than a cat just going meow.
All right. Well, she just gets into everything. Come here. Come here, Lulu. Come here. Come here. Come here. Oh my God. Look at this thing. $3. You want her? You can have her.
No.
She's huge. Yeah, hi. So she might complain, but honestly, it's better than her and the other cat getting into fights. So, But yeah, no, it's funny because like literally, if the NFL was rigged, the Bills are going to win this year, and I kind of am like, maybe I hope it's rigged then, because I just would like to see it. I honestly don't care how we win. I'm like, please, I need it. I need them to win the Super Bowl, please. So
yeah. Well, I'm a Chicago Cubs fan, and so the whole like narrative of like the curse for like 100 years, and I cried when they won the World Series. That was in 2016. So that was like, but that was actually like, I don't know if there was like a reverse curse as far as like 2016 is concerned. Like the Cubs put their curse upon the country. I see people talking about that online.
2016. Oh yeah, no, like I look back at that too, and I'm like, wow, there were so many things that happened in my life in 2016 where I'm like, maybe this was the start of it, But I think that that's just like classic American paranoia. Yeah.
Confirmation bias.
Literally, I'm like, well, it also just like kind of hilarious, like to deign to be like, but it was probably something I did, right? You know what I mean? As opposed to like the machinations of history or whatever. I was like, no, that was all me, guys. Sorry.
Yeah.
All on
Or
that
on a
one.
it's all on a or it's all on ourselves or on a sports organization.
Yeah, the two American things. Yeah, maybe it was the hamburger industry. We got the big three there. I'm trying to think of other American things. That's pretty much it. Yeah. So,
Bud Light.
well,
No, just I don't know. That controversy was later.
yeah, so good. So how you been, my friend?
Well, yeah, we're just bullshitting, and I've been busy. Just got back from Aftershock Fest. I filled in for a band. So if people don't know, Aftershock is like a huge rock festival.
Yeah.
With Deftones headlined, Perfect Circle played the same night. But they're like Blink 182 headline one night, like, and then another day Marilyn Manson played. Like, it's just kind
So
of, I know, super random. Like each day kind of had like its own themes, like per
yeah,
stage almost. I actually thought it was kind of cool, like how
yeah.
if you looked at the
The
if
schedule
the
and yeah,
schedules for each day, you could see like each day and each stage had its own like genre theme to
that's
it. So
fun.
I thought it was like actually like curated kind of cool that way rather than
Yeah.
like throwing a hodgepodge of bands together and hoping for the best, like you see like a Coachella or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, I was thinking about that. Like I haven't paid attention to festivals much pre-COVID, obviously, and then I got into rock music a little bit more during the pandemic, and like it's been fascinating to see what bands are headlining like rock festivals specifically, because like Aftershock, I feel like Aftershock leans heavier. Like a lot of the bands underneath them are more in like kind of like the metalcore, like
Yeah.
post-hardcore kind of family or whatever. But then like Riot Fest is a really funny one because
Yeah.
they seem like the type who would also have like, well, probably not Marilyn Manson because I feel like they have like a whole different brand going with that. But like they had, I think that the year I saw them, obviously I was there to see My Chemical Romance, but they had like the Misfits and Nine Inch Nails kind of, bracketing that. But then the last couple of years, the headlines have all been shit that I'm like, is that? I'm like, I don't know about that, but like, because I don't
Yeah.
really pay attention to Deftones or Blink 182. It just seems like it's kind of funny how that like after a certain level, it's like, well, they're just one of the bands with guitars that play stadiums, and that's just how it is. So
Yeah, so like I'm looking at like the Aftershock lineup again. So Thursday, like the main stage was like pop punk. Kind of like the other like main-ish stage was pop punk too. Like the headliner of that one's like Good Charlotte. But then like on one of the other stages, like the headliner was Acid Bath. And then the
yeah,
other one was like Hate Breed.
yeah. See, that's
But
what
like
I
each
mean. It's
stage
like,
was like its own, but like
yeah, yeah,
fit
yeah,
in with,
yeah.
yeah.
Those are just three different types of t-shirt. You know what I mean? Like that's just not like what I would normally think of. But I like that it was themed. Like that's very fun.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
fun. And actually like going to a festival that wasn't like Warped Tour for once
yeah,
was interesting. And also like I don't know, like there was something that happened the other day that like got me thinking. Well, first like this festival got me thinking, and also like you going to see like going to Riot Fest or like going to see My Chemical Romance at a
yeah,
huge stadium.
yeah,
And I just kind of like feel like of course like the way like technology and culture is going as far as like easy um I don't know, just how easy things are to like consume
mm-hmm.
lately, and you can be by yourself, you can be isolated, but then you have stuff like that where you like, or even like Oasis coming back. I know like I'm a huge Oasis guy, and you've seen
Oh
that, but
yeah,
like
no, that was gonna be what I was gonna talk about. I feel like that one is a huge one. Yeah,
yeah, but just like this need for like people to come together, and I'm just like, you know what, we might be okay. So I don't know. I just kind of like wanted to talk about like
yeah,
that, like we can kind of put like a each band is kind of like its own brand in the first place, but like
yeah,
just like how I think that's just going to be something that's going to be like a secret weapon moving
yeah.
forward. I don't know.
It's
Talk to
interesting
me.
that you say that. Yeah, no, because I've been thinking about this a lot lately. I so one of the things that I wrote about the first My Chem tour when they came back, and for people who are watching, I got really into My Chemical Romance in like 2020, and I was surprised about this because I was not into that kind of music at all, and it changed the game for me. But I think the interesting thing is like I was impressed with artists who can use scale as their medium to like convey an idea to make an art happen, right? Because to me, that feeling of togetherness and like dissolving of the ego into the crowd, right? Like that can happen at a hardcore show that has 30 people in it. Like you can do that. That can be achieved. You know what I mean? And I've seen it achieved. I'm not like that into like my local scene, but I've been to gigs where I'm like, oh yeah, this is happening. Like we are all in this right now. But I think that the thing about the massive, massive stadium is kind of almost it's playing with that feeling of togetherness that like all right here like let's go to church feeling right but and then there's spectacle right so there's this kind of dominance over the audience of like you are dazzling them quite literally like I saw Nine Inch Nails' most recent tour and that was a spectacle and it was crazy because it really felt like things were constantly changing but it was really cool that they blended like the analog the more like rock music and then the electronic experience and the lights and everything that was really awesome but that it's interesting because people aren't it's not like a sing-along like an Oasis concert is like I feel like I've seen amazing footage of the Oasis thing where it's just this group catharsis like people are sobbing but I think one of the interesting things is like you can have a good time and go in and out but you might not be changed if the artist isn't doing something very specific with that medium of scale, right? And I think it has to do with capturing attention for that 2 hours and feeling like you were just 100% present. And that was what the My Chem tour was really good at, this most recent one, because it was like a linear, like theater style narrative. It was like the opera, right? And I do think that that feeling that we feel when we're in a concert, it's not just the togetherness because sometimes depending on where you're sitting for a big stadium tour sometimes it's not that right like sometimes you are like oh this guy's just spilled beer on me this shit sucks but it's I think it's also like having your disbelief suspended. I think that that's really the crazy thing is that it takes a lot and that was what I wrote about My Chem the first time I saw them is like they have figured out the suspension of disbelief where you are not comparing them to their past selves. They're really like putting a line in the sand. And I think that not every tour of a legacy band can do that. The person who I think is the best at that, or who's kind of the person who perfected that formula, is honestly Springsteen. Like I think that his stadium experience is so transportative. There's a really good essay called "A Night in Bruce Springsteen's America" that's also a little critical of that because sometimes it can be kind of a false sense of togetherness. Like, but it is definitely to me like he's the one he understands how to be larger than life without people kind of being like but what is this BS, you know what I mean? Like that's the suspension of disbelief. Like we really want to believe. I think that feeling that we're all going to be okay is the feeling that comes from seeing something that big and feeling like it's not bad. Like that to me is there is something about that, like, right? Because there's something about like that musical bigness, badness, especially in rock, especially in anything that has its roots in something that used to be performed in a basement. Like it takes so much effort and so much authenticity to actually pull that off. It's kind of crazy to me. So that's how I feel.
Yeah, no, I think there's a lot there. So I think like for context, like if someone's listening to this and hasn't seen what My Chemical Romance has done
Yeah.
for like the stadium show, like I think you sent it to me, but like they hired a comic book letterer to
Yeah.
create essentially like a new language, like
Yeah.
in like a word mark and things like that.
Yeah.
And so it's almost looks like Soviet
Yeah.
Russia as far
Yeah.
as like the way it looks. Like they even had like didn't like Tucker Rule from Thursday, like the drummer for Thursday comes out, doesn't he
Yeah,
like play
they
like a
brought in like
snare
a whole
drum?
they
Like
brought in like a whole band. Like so the idea is that the Black Parade, which is their biggest legacy thing, they were revisiting that. And they have this whole new world that they've created that's like a dystopian authoritarian government that has that language, right?
sounds familiar.
And then
Okay, go ahead.
within that, like MCR, they've changed the name. It's not My Chemical Romance anymore. It's the Ministry of Complementary Reconditioning, right? So the idea is that the
Yeah.
band is stuck in this time loop forced to perform the entire album over and over again. And they die at the end of it. Like Gerard Way gets stabbed and there's a huge spurt of blood and like a clown stabs him and explodes. It's very comic booky. It's very Grant Morrison. But yeah, so that's what that show is. But there's an interlude where they have like an opera singer like come in and do Liza Minnelli's part in the song Mama, which is amazing. And then they have like a whole sequence where they like launch a missile during the song Sleep. So it's the cool part to me is that they just play the songs. Like that is what the show is. It's not, they're not talking about it. They're just kind of creating a world. Like it's like the Gestalt principle, right? Your brain is filling in the gaps between this world building and the album, and you're kind of creating the story yourself, which is a very comic book sensibility, I think. To me, that's like what comic books function on is, right? It's like what's happening between panel 1 and panel 2. That's that Gestalt where you're like, okay, I kind of know what this is.
Yeah, you're
it's a
filling
really
in the
cool
blanks.
visual thing. Yeah. So that's what that show is, and that's kind of what I was. Yeah, it's very hard to describe. Like, look it up on YouTube, but that's kind of the principle.
Yeah, and I think it would have been really like almost too easy for a band like that to just kind of go out and play the hits and have a like, oh, here's a camera and like, and I think the difference between like Oasis, and you can correct me if you feel like I'm wrong. Like I think the difference between Oasis and My Chemical Romance is that like Oasis has never been about like imagery, this other than maybe like fashion, because like you know you got Liam Gallagher and his parkas, but like imagery from album to album or like themes have never been what they've been about. Like they do have the narrative of the brothers fighting, but the songs have such a communal thing to it, especially if you're in England. Like Don't Look Back in Anger has been like an anthem for like when the nation has been in trying times, or you know, so you've got that going on for it. And like I don't know if there was any like big massive sing-alongs for My Chemical Romance, but like if you watch like an Oasis show from like the UK from top to bottom, people are just singing the whole time. They're having their arms around each other, beers getting spilled, but everyone's cool with it. You know, so it's like two different like experiences for a crowd like to really get a hold of, whether it's the style, the imagery, the pageantry, the narrative literally like in front of your face, or like you kind of like reliving your own narrative with a bunch of people. But either way, like I do think that is a valuable thing for people in general to be able to experience that. And whether it's like a 30-person hardcore show in Atlanta, or you're going to Wembley to see like Oasis, or Rutherford, you know, like MetLife Stadium to see, because that's where you went, right?
Yeah, we went to MetLife for my chem. Yeah, I mean, and I totally agree with that. I think that one of the things that is a hard conversation in music, but also in general right now, is like, I think everybody here has nostalgia fatigue. We are in a time and a place where culture is so risk averse, like mass culture is super risk averse. So everybody is banking on existing IP, right? And I think that most of us who are creative types are, in some sense, kind of against that. We're like, okay, we don't need another 16th Disney remake of yada, yada, yada. But the problem with that is like, oh, but when it really hits, like when nostalgia is actually mobilized to kind of bring people together, like that Oasis kind of concert experience, it's magical. Like there is something to that where it's not cheap and it's actually a very poignant human feeling.
Yeah. Do you feel like we're at a place where like nostalgia might be going away because there's not like a I'm forgetting the word right now, but there's not just like a zeitgeist, like a lot of cultural zeitgeist moments, or monoculture, that's the word, monoculture that's happening, because those communal things, other than like you're going to a local show or like a local market even, like those are smaller things, but like as far as like a larger cultural thing, I think that might itself be getting lost in itself.
It's totally complicated. It's been complicated by the fact that we don't have a monoculture anymore. Like, I mean, one of the reasons I like My Chem too is that they are the band of the 21st century to me, because they started when 9/11 happened and then have continued on. So like the entire history of the 21st century is the history of My Chemical Romance as well, right? And I think one of the things that is crazy about where we are now as a culture is that disappearance of monoculture has been also kind of tied to the disappearance of history. Like, I know that that's kind of a pretentious, I'll try not to get too academic here, but I do think that, like, as we feel that there isn't a single cohesive centralized answer to any question, it makes retroactively looking at everything that's happened in the past much more complicated. And as all of the things that we're experiencing as a culture are just kind of these recapitulations of things that have happened before, it's very hard to be in the present. I actually think that that's the other reason that live music is so attractive to me right now, is that it requires your presence. And
Mm-hmm.
if you're really feeling it, if you're totally dominated by this like total work of art that's happening in front of you, you know, we hear people on their phones in movie theaters. Like, not even the movie theater is a place to have that happen
It's not
anymore.
even
And I think
safe
that,
anymore.
yeah, yeah, it's why I'm attracted to all kinds of like multisensory art. Like, it's why I like perfume. It's why I like live music. It's like why I like certain types of art in general. Is that it just it forces you to be present. And so yeah, I do think that like nostalgia. I think that nostalgia as a brand is not going away anytime soon. I think that the
Mm-hmm.
economy is going to have to learn that one the hard way. But I think that one of the reasons that that has even happened is that people who are trying to run businesses or make money um, bank pretty heavily now on creating audiences and creating the customer that they want, because we feel like we maybe don't know who's actually out there. Like, it's not like we're selling to an understandable, cohesive, comprehensive monoculture. We're like, okay, we have to just use all of these different adjectives to try and get people in here, and it's very challenging.
Yeah. It's like the idea of a demographic. I mean, I
Yeah,
think the older that you like kind of pinpoint people, like maybe the easier it is as far as
yeah,
like, oh, let's target like a 40-year-old dad who's into Blink 182 or whatever. Like, I think that'd be
yeah.
pretty easy to do. But the fact that like that there's legacy bands creating younger fans all the time. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like, well, who's even the audience these days for some of these things? And so
Yeah.
I think you're right as far as like these brands, like they can try as they may to try like pinpoint like this is who's into us, but like
Yeah.
but the fact that there's no like there's all these like mini cultures. So you got the monoculture, but then I just coined that mini
Yeah.
cultures.
Microcultures. Yeah.
Yeah, microculture, yeah, there we go. Like microcultures happening. I think brands for the most part, all they can do is like try to create the world building, you know, kind of
Yeah.
going back to the MCR ideas, like, well, you have this world building happening and whoever's interested. Cause like you were saying, like you didn't even get into the band until 2020, like well
Mm-hmm.
past like Black
Oh
Parade,
yeah.
but I have to imagine like them kind of putting these worlds together is a thing that attracted you because you're very about like aesthetic and things like that. And
Yeah. I
it's
mean, I think it
I don't know.
actually was that like I saw the intentionality. It's such an pretentious thing to say, but I really did see, like, I think because I didn't have a nostalgia factor at all for that band, when they came back, I was seeing them as like, I was like, oh, the tactics that they're using to make whatever this is to get people to really believe in it. Because my wife was a big fan. One of
Mm,
the first things I ever spent my first tech payment on was a My Chemical Romance ticket for her. And then that tour got delayed for 2 years because of the pandemic. But I kind of saw it working on her, and I was like, okay, what's going on here? And then I heard the music, and there was something in it that it felt so driven to a goal. It felt so aware of the world that was going on around it. And I just
mm.
moved to San Francisco, which I think there's something about that city that feels very out of time. Like, it feels a little detached. I think that people are way too hard on San Francisco. I think it's a great city, but I think there is, because it's so beautiful, because it's very kind of washed over, like a lot of the gentrification that was going to happen to San Francisco had already happened by the time that I moved there. Like, it has this unreal feeling a lot of the time. So I was like,
Yeah.
I just need something real. Like, I'm locked in, you know, this apartment building because we're in quarantine, and I need something that feels timely and real. And I was listening to that first My Chemical Romance album, which is still one of my favorites. And I was hearing something in it. I was like, oh, like these guys were on the front step of culture somehow. Like, he almost understood what needed to be made. I think that that's one of the most talented things about that band, actually, is that they don't follow trends. They make the trends, right? I think a lot of the artists that you
Mm-hmm.
and I like, we probably feel that way about them. But it's rarer and rarer these days. Like, I think it's really hard to create a niche for yourself in music because it's such a thankless industry. But yeah, that was kind of what I was hearing with them. I was like, it honestly, I kind of started to get into some of the era aesthetics, but I think that that is more for the fans who are experiencing it in real time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that what I was loving about them was just, oh my gosh, I see you're so smart. Like I was just like, wow, these guys are so
Yeah.
smart. This is such a smart way to react to what was happening in the 2000s, is to just totally veer away from those really cyclical conversations about everything and to be like, to be self-mocking. The thing I like about them is that they were so earnest, and I think that
Mm-hmm.
a lot of those, like even in Oasis, right? I think that that's the interesting thing about Oasis to me, is that you look at the Gallagher brothers and you're like, oh, these guys are probably so irony poisoned, but they actually produce these things that are so earnest. They're like actually incredibly genuine, and it's a
Mm-hmm.
really really funny line to walk, because like, yeah, Oasis crowd is not acting like Liam Gallagher acts on Twitter. They're acting like a crowd that whose, team just won the World Cup. Like that's how crazy it is.
Yeah, and I think like when you think of like big rock stars like that, like you think that it is like irony pilled, like you've been like
Yeah.
poisoned almost.
Hmm.
But like if you follow them, like you're just like, no, they're just the same like people who like take the piss, if as the
Yeah.
Brits say, like take the piss out of everything, you
Yeah.
know, and like, but like I think there's like a genuine earnestness that's happening like
Hmm.
in those songs. And then like there's, I remember, okay, if anyone's listening to this and they're like marketing folks, like the Oasis Instagram page during that tour was just a fucking master class, like
It's so
of
good.
what, yeah, of like documentation, bringing in lore, bringing in like great visuals. And like I remember specifically it was like from the Chicago date, and this guy was in the front row. You can tell it was during
Yeah.
Don't Look Back in Anger. He's like
Fine.
this 50-year-old dude just like bawling his eyes out.
Yeah.
And like, and I'm just like thank God for moments like that, like right now, especially you know, with AI and being on our phones all the time. Like I remember like something that that I saw Gary Vaynerchuk say, like to bring it back like to marketing, is like, yeah, like in 5 to 10 years, there's gonna be people making money from having a business to where they go on walks with people, or very specifically putting away your
Yeah.
phone and
Oh yeah.
having like experiences like that. Like it's already kind of happening, like where these like, maybe it's like a rave, or maybe it's like a party where you like put your phone away in a locker and you're just like engaged with what's happening
Yeah.
around you. I think people are like, I think like he also said like younger generations, I think there might have been a poll or whatever, like, or a study where like younger kids are putting away their phones. It's like, hey, you come to my house for a party, there's the bowl where the phones are.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, put it
I
away.
mean, yeah, there's I we have like, I think that that kind of like put your phone away movement is definitely going to start to gain more ground. I also think we're going to see it in parenting a lot. I mean, you're a parent. I don't know how you approach that with your kids, and there's, I think, no judgment either way with the choices that parents make, but I think a lot of the people who now are seeing, hey, like I was on my phone all the time and it wasn't good for me, they're at least going to pass that along. Whereas I feel like there was a very brief period of time with the generations whose parents were just totally new to the digital world, but didn't totally embrace it. Like they didn't log all the way on, but their
Yeah.
kids did. And I think that that disconnect, that gap is a temporary thing. Like that's going to go away. And no matter what choices you make as a parent, I think everyone's going to have some idea about what they want to do with their kids and the phones.
Yeah, like I mean, for me at this point, like the phones are happening, but
Yeah.
at the same time, like it's not because I want it to.
Yeah.
like isn't this great? Isn't this fantastic where you can
Yeah.
watch videos, you know? Like so I think with that in mind, especially just like with how everything's moving forward, it's just like I think the I know, I think you said this earlier, but just like intentionality, you
Yeah.
know, just like with
Hmm.
your time and how you experience it. And I think that's going to be a big thing, like to bring it to like brand building now, like
Yeah.
where I think brands can really learn from these big rock bands or like subcultures like punk
Yeah.
and hardcore. It's just like everything that they're doing um is intentional. Like,
Yeah.
and bring it back to Aftershock. Like the little bit of time I did spend walking around like the festival grounds,
Yeah.
like it was all intentional. Like it was at this park, this public
Mm-hmm.
park in Sacramento. Like they hung like because like the sun's going down a little bit later. Like they just didn't like leave it to be like, oh, it's just dark. And the
Yeah.
only light you have is like the stages, right?
Yeah.
No,
Love.
they put like lights in the trees and stuff like, and it was
Uh-huh.
I had this like glowy feeling for like a rock festival, and I was just like, this is nice.
Yeah.
Like, how often do you like go to like a concert and feel like it's nice, like the experience?
Yeah. Like, oh, this is nice. Yeah, that's so true. I also think, it's interesting. I think that like a lot of people who are really into music, they get hives when you're like, well, how can marketing learn from punk music? Because the answer is that it can't, right? But I think
Mhm.
that like in some ways it can't. They're kind of at odds.
It's
But the
I
thing that
think
I
so,
think it
yeah.
can learn is like that authenticity is not replicable. Like it has to actually be that. Like you can't sell the thing that is authentic and then do an inauthentic sale of that. I think that that's the most
Yeah.
interesting part about live music is like there isn't a formula. There's an ethos and like a way of doing things. And a lot of the bands that didn't survive that era were the ones that were not creating a niche for themselves that nobody really understood at the time. They were the ones who were doing, oh, we're doing this thing that's kind of like Fall Out Boy, but not. And they just, nobody hears about them anymore. You know what I mean? I think that that's the
Yeah.
interesting thing is like, yeah, like we can learn from those acts and from any artist that we respect. But I think the interesting part is that like, it doesn't mean that there's a list of traits that you can just copy and it'll work for you. It totally does not work like that. And that's what's
Yeah.
cool about
There's a client I have right now where like kind of came up from the same scene, like
it.
DIY type of stuff. Like now it's like a bigger, like they have like a large warehouse where they make merch. Like what,
Yeah.
like that's the typical punk thing, the
Yeah.
pipeline, the punk pipe, the professional punk pipeline,
Yeah.
the triple P. But it's like, okay, well, if you have to say, if you feel like you need to say that you're punk, you're probably not.
Yeah.
Like
Like I don't identify as punk at all, which is really fun. I'm like, I know my shit. I know that I'm not anything but somebody who does graphic design and likes music. But anyways, you were saying they make merch.
yeah, but like I feel like if you have to say it, then you're not.
Yeah.
So, but like, and I know throwing the word around of like authenticity right now, like
Yeah.
it's its own punk word, right?
Yeah. Sure.
Like if you have to say it, then you're kind of
Yes.
forcing it. Like at the same
Exactly.
time,
Oh, that's
you
so
know.
true. And that's like we hear that with every new company, it's like we're so authentic, we're so human. It's like, well, what does that mean? Yeah.
Yeah, like if you have to ask what does it mean, like
Yeah.
then you're probably
Yeah.
on a losing uh just a losing idea. So it's just like just do it, And I think also for like marketing these days too, it's like putting together these like experiences for people that you can't like replicate over and over
Hmm.
again. So one thing that we're going to start playing with is like having kind of like like open houses like
Yeah.
during like maybe it's during work hours where it's just
Yeah.
like, yeah, come in, like there's going to be hot dogs. I don't know, I'm just going to bullshit and ideas, but like
Yeah.
it's just like having these open like person to person experiences, especially the
Hmm.
more that like people are like cold DMing, like it just everything just seems so like impersonal that you
Yeah.
can replicate over and over again. It's just like, well, what if we
Yeah.
just open the doors for once and just like,
Yeah.
okay, come in, or like throwing events at your building or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
so I don't know. Like, I think that's just kind of like the way it's gonna go. And I was just kind of convinced more than ever, like, especially after seeing again, like the My Chemical Romance shows, the Oasis shows, my own
Yeah.
experience at this festival,
Yeah.
or like seeing like footage from like Turnstile playing and everyone like losing their shit,
Yeah.
like
Turnstile, that's a fantastic example. I could talk about Turnstile all day, but yes,
do a little
it's
bit. You should
surreal.
riff on
Oh
it
no,
a little
I mean,
bit.
I think that that's like it's crazy that well, it's not crazy that they're like the big. I don't know because I didn't come from like a background of like punk and hardcore and DIY and stuff, and so it's interesting for me to like whenever I talk to somebody who's from that world, I always like to pick their brain about what they think about Turnstile because you would think that you would run into a lot more skepticism, but they've really figured out how to make that not the case. And I do think it is like, you know, there is nothing about Turnstile that is selling you the fact that Turnstile is a hardcore band. They just kind of are. And you either believe that or you don't. And I think that that's really, really cool. And I think that that's, again, like, if we want to take a kernel of that away to marketing, is that there is no way to dominate and mold your audience like clay. And there's not a quick solution to that, the way that I think a lot of people will sell you as a solution for marketing. Like one size fits all fits none, but also just presuming that you know people is one of the biggest mistakes that you can make, I think, as a marketer right now, because you actually have to go and talk to them. And, you know, like, I think that a lot of people always joke about tech, especially, that it's like a solution looking for a problem, right? And I think that a lot of things now are solutions looking for problems. And that doesn't mean that there aren't problems out there, which is interesting, right? You just have to figure out which one you're solving. And a lot of the time, I think that the problem people are solving is, well, I want to have a business, which is not that's not anybody else's problem. That's your problem, dog. Like just like bands, if they're solving the problem of, I want to be like Fall Out Boy, I'm like, man, me too. That would be great, wouldn't it? Have a big mansion, like that sounds cool. But like that doesn't mean that you're gonna do it. Like, and I think that that's the interesting part of that for sure.
Yeah, and I think like with Turnstile, like, because they've kind of always had strangely accessible music, but I think I think it just kind of falls on like the signals that they've put out there as far as like vibe or a look. But I don't think it's a put on either, you know, like it's very curated, like in a way that I feel like yeah, we like this stuff, I hope you do too. And I think that's kind of like, to base it, I think, like, to kind of like really boil it down to the key thing, like as far as like being in a band or having a brand or a business or something like that, it's just like, I think having your taste and broadcasting it is probably like the most, and being confident enough to broadcast it is like pretty much what you need to do.
And broadcast the one thing that you're good at too, because that's the other thing. Is like, I love going back to those Oasis videos, that social media coverage. It was actually so reserved. Like it wasn't an overshare. I think that a lot of the social media era has encouraged people to be like, you have to share every behind the scenes clip. It's content. And it's like, sometimes there's that content fatigue. People don't want to see every part of that. I guarantee you that if Turnstile posted all the time, talked about every little detail of who they were and why they were as hardcore or not as they were, it would ruin it. There's a suspension again of disbelief that people are attracted to feeling like they don't know everything about an artist, a brand, a person. So that mystery, I think, is a huge part of it. Is like, why do we go out and do this? It's because we don't know exactly what's going to happen. Like, we know that we want to have this experience, but we have to not be able to predict every part of it. And I think that really risk-averse creative thing, it sells exactly the opposite. They're like, well, people won't go to Disneyland if they don't know exactly what they're going to have when they get there. And it's like, actually, like, there's a little bit of uncertainty that's okay.
Yeah. And I'm glad you bring up, I know this is like probably its own like mini podcast that like I just do, but like the whole idea of like suspension of disbelief, like that's why WWE works. Or like, because you know that it's kind of like My Chemical Romancing. It's drama, it's a play. They're just throwing punches, and then if it does its job well enough, by halfway through a match, like, you're booing or cheering, like you're with among people. It's a communal thing, and I think that's why like performance works. That's why opening your doors to have a human experience like works, like just, you know, always will. So I think like that's just the thing that like we as a people like should just double down on, you know, like even if it's just like, I'm gonna have 8 people over my house to eat while watching the Bills. I don't know.
or just period, I'm gonna care so much about the Bills that people are like, why do you, a person who's usually at an art gallery on a weekend, care this much about the Buffalo Bills? I'm like, it's because I do. I can't help it. You know what I mean? Like, it's so true. I mean, I think that gathering space isn't also just constantly doing the work of never feeling like you know everything about everyone. That's the most important thing to me, is again, like curiosity. That's another like classic enterprisey buzzword, right? But it's like, I do think that a lack of curiosity about other people is one of the things that makes everybody afraid of everyone. Not that it will solve bigotry to be curious, but I do think that a lot of people could stand to be more curious and just assume that things are more complicated, that language is insufficient. Then, yeah. Oh, and just, suspend your disbelief. That one thing I love about WWE is the choice of what you're suspending your disbelief about, because it's like, yeah, that guy did get 3 fluorescent light bulbs smashed over his head, but he doesn't actually hate that guy. And that's like such a perfect piece of cognitive dissonance that makes you come back for more. It's like the thing that you're not believing is the emotional, the acting part of it, but the physical part of it is happening to a pretty large degree. And I think that that's super cool. So sometimes it's about just changing the thing that you're surprising people with. I think that that's the lesson that WWE and deathmatch wrestling and stuff would teach me.
Yeah. Oh man, we can get into that so much more.
So much more.
Yeah. So like, and I think the takeaway here, just to like put a bow on it, so I can let you go, is just that I think there's magic to be had in being calculated in decisions.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, not to base it on what you think other people will like. Because if you look at Gerard Way, the singer of My Chemical Romance, like, he's a weirdo, like, as far as the things he likes, and he puts his tastes on display. He brings it into everything he does. He's likely not saying like, oh, what will these fans like? Or what will the general public like?
Yeah. And he hasn't given a single interview since the band reunited, which I think is the coolest thing ever. It's just sometimes, be a little mysterious, so that the thing that you're really weird about just has to sit like an elephant in the room, and people are going to figure out how to deal with that on their own. I think that that's a really cool takeaway too.
Yeah. Boom. Just broadcast it and build it, and the people will come.
Build it, and
the right people will come.
Yeah. I mean, it's nice if you have a stadium to bring them to, and not everybody has that.
And have a budget to
yeah, it's like, well, build it and they will come, but you have to build something the size of MetLife Stadium. So maybe not quite that, but yeah, no, it's a very fun thing to think about how to use that. And I do think it's like just a constant learning experience, and we all could benefit from seeing some more concerts that move us. So
get outside.
I'm glad you have fun at Aftershock. That's awesome.
Exhausted but fun.
Yeah.
Exhausting but fun. Yeah. Anyway, Amanda, thanks for coming on. Where can people find you? And
they can find me on LinkedIn, Amanda Killian, or on Instagram. You can just search my name; it'll come up. I have a handle that's a little bit of an art history joke. So I will say that you can just search my name, Amanda Killian, or amandakillian.work, if you want to see all the cool, crazy stuff I do, merch and zines and some corporate marketing design. Honestly, I've been into that too, of course. So
yeah, and if you want our brains to help you get your business and marketing unstuck, we have the Unstuck Reset. So go to chapterscreative.com/unstuck reset. You can see what we're all about and how we can help you. So if you want us to nerd out with you and put our brains together to do cool shit with your business, let us know. Cool. Well, thank you for your time, Amanda. We'll chat soon. Thanks for letting me yap at you.
Yeah, of course. Anytime, my friend.